Okay, I'm Mike Ridley. I'm editor of The Messenger, and I'm here with another installment of our series of local World War II vets that we've been interviewing. And today with me is Roy Clark. Hi, Roy.
Hi.
I guess we can just start out by, I can just ask you some background. How did you get into the service and how that all came about? You were telling me before you were pretty young.
I was 17 when I went in the Marines. And we went to Parris Island, had my training there. Then I went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Went to telephone school.
What was that all about?
That was field telephone, how to operate switchboards, field switchboard. And so that's what I was all during the war was telephone. And then we kind of shifted around to different areas, and we finally went to Camp Pendleton, California. And they started forming the 4th Marine Division.
What time was this now?
This was in '43.
Okay.
I went in the service, signed up on December 14th of '42. But in '43 we went to Camp Pendleton, formed the 4th Division, and I was put into 14th Marines, but I was also detached from there and went into a Special Weapons Battalion. And we were there for 3 or 4 months. But then I went back into the 14th Marines, artillery. And from there, I went to another school, and the division left the States, San Diego, and went to battle at Roy and Namur Island. That was in '43, And then I caught up with them in Pearl Harbor. And it was only a week or so after I had caught up with them, we went aboard ship. This on the island of Maui was our rest base. And caught up with them there. And we, about a week later, we got aboard ship and headed for Saipan, and we went to Pearl Harbor, and I was on LST, a Coast Guard LST 23, and May 22nd, we were tied up in Pearl Harbor, what they call West Lock, and the LSTs, for some reason, and I never knew really why, but they started blowing up. And they were loaded with ammunition. And 6 of them blew up and sank. Well, we were lucky enough to get ours out and got away from them. And there was approximately 1,500 Marines and sailors that were killed in that. So it was kind of like Pearl Harbor all over again.
And did you ever find out what happened?
They kept it a real secret. And nobody knew. They didn't want the people back in the States to know what happened, so it was all pretty much a secret. But after we had gotten out of the harbor the next day, Tokyo Rose had it on the radio that she knew that it had happened. But then from there we went to Saipan, and on June 15th of '44, we made the landing there. And as I was usually in the second wave going in, and the amphibious tractor that I was on run up on a coral reef and flipped over. Lucky enough I got out of that. And when I finally did get to the beach, I didn't have a helmet or rifle or anything, but there was a lot of dead Marines around, so I had picked up what I needed. But in the meantime, I had gotten some shrapnel in my left arm near the elbow. And I bandaged it, took care of it as well as I could, but it got real infected. And about a week later, I was in a field hospital. And the doctors wanted to take my arm off, send me back out the hospital ship, but I wouldn't let it. Luckily, there was a corpsman that told the doctor that he would take care of it, and he did. But I was in the hospital for 9 days.
Where was this?
This was on Saipan in a little town of Garapan.
What were the facilities like there?
It was it was a tent facilities, like MASH that you see on TV. It was similar to that. But after the 9th day, the wire team that I had, that what was left of them, came down to see me and said that they were leaving that day for Tinian, the island of Tinian. So I told them that I would be down there, but the doctors wouldn't let me leave the hospital. And I just packed up everything and left. And by that time, my arm was pretty good anyway. And I got down to the beach, and they had all gone. So all there was an LCV there, and so I went aboard, but they told me they couldn't take me to Tinian. But I kind of argued a little bit with him, and then finally, I guess he was the captain, he said, well, I got to go see the beach master, so if you happen to be on that ship when I leave, there's nothing I can do about it. So that's the way I got over to Tinian and caught up with my bunch of fellas that I was with. And after that island was secured, why we boarded troop transport USS Livingston and went back to our rest base in Maui. But that was quite, well, Saipan was the worst for me at that particular time. There was a lot of things happening there. And but then after all of that, we got through with all of that, why we kind of rested for a short period of time because our division landed on 4 landings in the Pacific in 13 months. But they got us back there, and the next landing was going to be, which I didn't know, but it was going to be Iwo Jima. And I was on the second wave going into Iwo Jima, but that again was no place to go. There wasn't much of a beach for 3 or 4 days. And we just couldn't do anything until some of the infantry got up over the hill that was there, and it was all black volcano dust, really. And you couldn't dig a foxhole, it would just cave in. But that ended up with a lot of casualties in our division. We had something like 19,000 in our division, and during the 4 campaigns there were 17,000 some seemed like it was 17,900 that were killed and wounded out of our division. And luckily I didn't have anything happen to me on Iwo Jima, which I was grateful for. And where we landed, I always landed on a beach Yellow 2. And that happened to be up in I'm not sure which way, but it was towards, away from Mount Suribachi. And I happened to be looking up at Mount Suribachi when they put the first flag up. But then they wanted to take some pictures, so they did that all over again and posed for it this time. But I happened to see both of those as they done that.
Now, were you carrying around the radio gear the whole time when you were?
No, I didn't have radio. Telephone.
Telephone, right?
We had telephone systems, yeah.
So was that a lot of extra equipment to haul around? Or?
Well, we had little carts that we put most of it in and kind of pulled it around and run the wires. Of course, on Iwo Jima there wasn't much to put a wire up on, but on Saipan and Tinian there were palm trees, and we could get up in the palm trees and get it away from the tanks and amphibious tractors and this sort of thing to keep them from chewing it all up.
It must have been hard to keep something open.
It was.
In the midst of all that.
Our wire team, the Japanese had a trade of where if they could get to the wire, they would take a pin and stick through the wire and short it out. So our wire team had to follow these wires to wherever they were going, and you physically had to hold it in your hand so that you could feel the pin and walk along. But in the meantime, you had to have somebody watching, because they were there wherever they'd done this.
Waiting.
They were there waiting. So that was kind of hairy at times. But that was, it seemed to be our wire team was always called to go out at night. We roamed around the islands at night, which you wanted to be sure that you knew the password, because the password changed every day.
Yeah.
So you want to be sure you knew the password.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the islands? I mean, you were a young man. You probably never seen
No,
stuff like that.
That was an interesting thing. Of course, during war, you can appreciate what but the weather was nice and warm. And if it wasn't warm, you probably could really enjoy it. But our rest base back at Maui, on Maui, that was nice there. We were up on the side of Mount Haleakala, which is an active volcano there, but nothing ever happened while we were there.
Had you ever been out on the sea before?
No.
Joined the service?
Never.
Did you adapt to that all
Yeah,
right?
pretty well, yeah. I got seasick a few times. We got into a storm off of Okinawa. That was during that campaign. But had a typhoon come up through there. Kind of thought the ships were going to bust in two. And then the kamikaze planes, that kind of scared me too, because all the time that I was aboard ship, I always had twin 40 millimeters, and we shot down a few of them, but they were all over the place.
Where was home for you at that time?
Home was, yeah, when I joined the service, I lived in Fairmount.
Okay.
And during the war, my folks moved out to Baldwinsville. So I didn't know where I lived out here until I came home.
How often did you hear from home?
Well, not too often. Only back at our rest base, we get our mail back there, but maybe be a month or two or so before you ever hear of anything.
Yeah. Kind of a delay.
Yeah.
And then, how did you, and what happened after, up to the point that we talked about?
Up to Iwo Jima?
Yeah.
We had our gear was all aboard ship, and we were supposed to land on the island of Honshu in Japan. We were going to be the assault troops for the invasion of Japan, a part of it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And the war ended, of course, when they dropped the bombs. They dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Mm-hmm.
And the war ended. And then we just got our gear back, and I got aboard a carrier, USS Shangri-La, and came back to San Diego and went to Camp Pendleton. I don't know, we probably were there for 2 weeks, and then they shipped me to Bainbridge, Maryland, and I was discharged on November 21st, 1945. So in 3 years' time, I went a long ways.
Yeah. Now, was that on points that you got discharged?
Well, I had enough points. They had this thing where you had, I don't know if it was, it seemed like it was 80 points. I had enough of that anyway. So I went to the first sergeant one time and I said, you know, I've got enough points to get out. And he says, well, that may work for some people, but it isn't going to work for you, because you're not going back till the war was over.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I went overseas on an aircraft carrier, USS Kobe. I came back on one.
How many months in between?
Well, I left in 43. Can't remember just the date when I left.
May 10th? May 10th, 44?
May 10th of, yeah, okay, May 10th of 44. And went to Pearl Harbor. That was on USS Kobe, and came back to the States on USS Shangri-La.
And when you got back home, what do you remember about being back?
Well, of course, I didn't know where I lived out here.
Yeah.
So I had to call my parents and have them come get me in the city,
Uh-huh.
in Syracuse, and pick me up and bring me back out. But they had bought a small farm out on Perry Road, and that was kind of nice. I kind of forgot about the service. I wanted to forget it all.
Yeah.
And until the recent years, when I started talking to some of these older fellas that were in the service, all this stuff starts coming back, but I kind of blocked it out of my mind for a long time. But when I came back, I came home and I went to work for the town of Van Buren and drove snowplow. And also, in the summertime, I had bought a potato sprayer. You know, my father and I kind of done a little farming. And I had a potato sprayer that I sprayed all the farmers' potatoes with. And then after that, I decided I might like to go work for a telephone company. So in 1952, I went to work for the telephone company. And I worked there for 33 years. And I had some heart trouble. And I retired. Officially retired in 85. That was nice. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And you got to use some of the experience from the service.
Yeah, well, it was quite a lot different, but the climbing, telephone poles, this sort of thing, that was, you know, all the same, but the equipment and all this was a lot different because we didn't use field equipment.
Right.
I enjoyed it there. Well, since then, I haven't done anything. And when I retired, I really retired.
Good. You're about to head out on a trip now, so...
Well, we have a camp up by Camden.
Okay.
And we're going up there now.
Okay.
And we have a place in Florida that we spend the winter in.
Good. Well, I won't hold you up from your vacation any longer.
Okay.
Thanks for talking to us, Roy.
Okay. Thank you.